So welcome back, guys, to Crime and Plastic.
I missed you.
Yeah.
Is that going to be like your intro every time? I missed you.
I did.
Oh, you missed the viewers?
I missed the listeners.
The listeners, sorry. Listeners and viewers. Because we're
Yeah.
going to be on YouTube soon.
Yeah.
So Santina's going to do the Crime and Plastic World Update.
Okay, so
Breaking news.
this is a story we've kind of been gatekeeping from you guys for a while because it's been out since like March.
Yeah.
But basically, our doctor, is acquaintances with a murderer. Bum, bum, bum.
I
Okay,
am too.
I didn't know he was going to be a murderer when I met him.
Yes, so
He just turned out to be a murdering plastic surgeon. I didn't know that.
Doesn't that make you think how many people do you know that can turn into murderers?
More than you think.
I know one.
1% of all people are sociopaths, apparently.
Well, they said under the right circumstances, anyone can become a murderer.
Yeah, I feel like murder's not a difficult bar.
I hope it is.
I don't think anybody, but
No, they said under the
No.
right circumstances.
more people.
I understand why some people murder.
Do you mean self-defense? You mean like...
Anything
No.
or revenge, like someone hurt your family,
Oh,
or
I see what you
know,
mean. Yeah,
they were,
okay.
they
But
were,
I don't
This-
count that as murder.
This kind of murder is straight up like sociopathic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Someone
so-
hurts your family. That's not murder. That's
Yeah, right. Like
that's justice.
That's
Like, if we
just
think
Street
about-
justice.
if we think about our
Ash.
Ash,
Yeah.
I understand why he killed the motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like that's to me like an easy bar.
Right.
That way he didn't even hit like a threshold. The threshold
Right.
was like here.
right. Right.
So I'll give you the skinny because we want to get into the story. This guy, Tom Kozowski, is a plastic surgeon in Tampa, Dr. Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
69. Dr. Tampa Bay 69.
Dr. Tampa Bay 69 used to work at a plastic surgery center in Tampa.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the surgery center themselves were like fucking up stuff with the
Billing or
patients.
something.
Yeah, like the billing and whatever. Patients were disgruntled and mad and da-da-da. Thomas leaves the practice, starts his own practice, but his patients follow him. They leave bad Yelp reviews saying he was such a bad surgeon, da-da-da, but really their grievance is with the plastic surgery center.
Right.
So Thomas...
It wasn't with the surgery, I don't think.
No.
Was it? It was more like they were complaining about that they didn't get their next procedure
Yeah,
because there's a lot of steps to breast reconstructive surgery.
right. So Tom goes ahead and sues his old employer for negligence, right? Because they didn't take care of these patients and now his business is suffering, da-da-da-da. And within a year of this lawsuit, Tom decides, I fucking hate my own lawyer who's representing me. Like, he's not doing a good job. I'm going to represent myself. So he becomes like a pro se plaintiff.
Never a great idea.
Never a great idea.
I've never seen that work.
Also goes back to the theme of like ego in
Yeah.
these plastic surgeons. Like,
It does.
so he starts representing himself, and his opposing counsel is this guy Steve Causey, and they're just like not like, if you look at the docket, like they just hate each other. Like they're filing motions back and forth to like
Sanction.
sanction each other, remove
It gets
each other.
personal.
It gets personal. Even like there's these reports that at a deposition, Tom was taking a deposition, which, bro, there are people who've been out of law school for 4 years. They don't take one fucking deposition.
Right.
But he's doing a depo, and Steve is like objection,
Right.
objection, because it's way without of the scope.
Right.
And apparently, like, according to a third attorney who was there, like, Tom approached Steve in the bathroom and was like, basically, I'm gonna fuck you up, because he kept objecting to everything,
Right.
his entire line of questioning, whatever. So in March, Steve Causey,
This March.
March
2023.
Steve Causey, the attorney for the defense, aka Tom's old employer, goes to work. He's sitting at his office, typing an email, listening to music on his phone. He gets up to use the bathroom, and he is never seen again. So then it's found out that Steve showed up to
Tom.
Tom showed up to Steve's office building, hid out in the bathroom, which is weird. Like, he knew that Steve was-
Eventually, he's going to use the bathroom.
well, eventually a lot of people are going to use the bathroom. Whatever. Tom hid out. He, like, accosted Steve, whatever, and killed him in the bathroom.
Drugged him.
Drugged him, put him in a little body bag, and, like, wheeled him out.
Fed him to the gators.
Yeah. And so they think that he dumped the body in the Everglades for them to.
Well, that will definitely be a full episode in the future.
Yes, but this is all alleged. Sorry, because he hasn't been
Right, alleged.
convicted. Allegedly.
Although there's a lot of videotape.
And aren't they seeking the death penalty for him?
I think they are.
Yeah. So that is to come.
How do you know him?
He came to my office. We spent the day here. Seemed like a nice guy. I looked at his work online. Is the pictures he showed me fantastic? He was really a great breast plastic surgeon, and I was happy to meet him. And he seemed like a normal dude. There's no way I could have known 6 years later he would murder an opposing counsel.
No, but what's so funny is that this case happened kind of like in the beginning of when we decided we were going to do this specific podcast.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
when we decided on calling it Crime in Plastic and looking at all the crimes. We
Yeah.
decided that before we found out that I was an acquaintance to a murderer.
Yeah, so and then the doctor's sending all of these articles in this group chat, let's research this case and that case and the other, da, da, da. And then one day he sends Tom's case, and then but along with his case, he starts sending all these videos, and I'm like, why the fuck does he have so much
I have videos of this guy in my phone.
So I'm like,
of us together.
but me, I don't know who Tom is. So I'm like, why does he have so many videos of this one guy? And so I tap on the phone. I tap on one of the videos, and it's Tom, and he's like, 3 things you don't know about me. And I'm totally expecting it to be I'm a murderer. Da, 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 da. And he's like, I like to ski. I like da, da, da. And I'm like,
I play in a rock band.
and I'm like, how did the doctor get these fucking real videos of Tom? Where did he get this? He's like, I know him. And I'm
2017.
that's wild.
It's wild. So that's the breaking news. And
So-
to be continued at a future episode. We'll go
Yeah.
into details of that case because it's developing. It's a developing story.
I believe
He's
he
in
was,
prison and he's facing the death penalty.
let's see if he was indicted.
I believe he was indicted very fast.
Yeah.
I think within 2 or 3 days, which goes to what we said before. Plastic surgeons make terrible murderers.
Yes.
They do it sloppy and they're caught almost immediately.
Yeah, they are seeking the death penalty.
Yeah.
I think Santino's right. It's all ego.
I think so too.
It's ego. Could be.
Yeah.
I think let's
Good
think
thing
of,
I don't have that ego.
let's think of the best murderers are probably people with really low self-esteem.
But I mean, the ones that get away with it.
Yeah.
It depends because some of the serial killers got away with a lot of stuff.
And
And
they
they
have
were
big egos.
They have
but
big egos.
They're very smart.
the ones that don't get caught, like the Unabomber. They're living in the under the radar.
Right.
No,
I mean they think a lot about these murders to do, the serial killers, so they plan it really well.
right. But
They
a
think of
plastic
everything.
surgeon doesn't really think like that necessarily.
Tom,
They just get the job done.
Yeah.
I just feel surgeons in general have god complexes.
yeah.
And they think I reach into people's
It de-
bodies.
I
stop
won't
their
say
organs.
no, but it depends on the specialty. Not all surgeons are the same. The specialties have different personalities. Orthopedics, neurosurgery, very different. But I will say this: surgeons get the job done. We're very much into direct action. So from the time the thought comes into their head, once the wheels get turning, I feel like they just
But he didn't get it done. I mean, he got it done, but
he got it done.
But he didn't do it well.
No, well, the murder was done
I know,
well.
but he
The
not
guy's
the
not coming back.
He did. He tried. He attempted a cover up.
I feel like
That-
that was not the main thing, though.
Well, wasn't he? I'm not going to say anymore. We'll say in another episode about him.
Yeah, no, but we can talk about the other plastic surgeon who hired his friend to do it. He also didn't think it through. Is my friend gonna? Is this a friend that can keep a secret? Is this
No.
a friend that's gonna blab to the next guy?
It's not even there's so many errors in that one. The fucking text, the fact that the gun belonged to his brother,
Jumping in the water.
No, but surgeons are very, like I said,
Doers.
it's like they're very what's the word? One track.
Do they not think about consequences?
No, but I think they think about the consequences, but not to them. It's like they have to get the act done, get the tumor out, get the skin out.
They don't murder well.
They do not murder. They don't get away with. They murder well. They just don't get away with the murder well.
Well, Santina and I have talked about this, that we feel like it's easier for a surgeon to actually commit the act of murder.
yeah, I
Just,
feel like
just because of the not having the disgust that
Right.
us,
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
humans would have
There's a
to-
dissociative factor.
Like, it would be very difficult for me to put a life into somebody.
Correct.
But
That would be simple for me.
Should we leave?
No, but
no, you know what I mean. It's just that it's not. You don't have that barrier of touching,
disgust,
of
and
disgust.
you know what? It's not just a barrier. There's something called mirror neurons. With like when you see somebody cry, you can get sad.
Yeah.
When you see somebody turned on, you can get turned. Like it's a mirror effect. So when you see somebody in pain, you feel empathy. It's a normal, natural human thing. Surgeons have to be able to turn that off, because otherwise, every time they put even nurses too, when they put a needle into somebody or a knife into somebody, the first time you do it, you feel that mirror effect. And that has to be turned off completely to do surgery.
I also think,
And I guess it's the same thing if you're murdering somebody. You have to be able to turn off the...
Yeah.
I also think
the
from a more
feeling.
practical sense, like they know like the amount of like
blood that's going to
pressure,
come.
no, like pressure to apply in order to like
They know how to kill.
yeah, like they know where to stab, how hard you need to stab in order to like penetrate. Like me, I feel like
You'd be like
if someone was
scratching.
attacking me, my first like would be like a soft blow. Like, is he okay? Like, are they okay? Like,
Right.
did I get him good? Like,
Right, but this is not a defense. This is an offense.
I know, but
Yeah.
even then, I would be
Yeah.
like, is that enough stabbing? Like, I wouldn't know.
I feel, though, that if you really were mad enough, and I've seen you mad, that you could do it.
No, I'm such an empath.
If you were triggered enough, you would stab
I'm not
that
the
and
like
twist it.
stab, never stab.
No,
Ew.
shoot,
Shoot, yeah.
poison.
No, poison is too unpredictable.
Oh, someone else could eat it, you mean? Or they might not die right away?
Like, who the fuck am I to go out buying poison, doing all this bullshit? Like,
That's a lot neater than stabbing.
is it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna stab either.
Okay.
I'd be a bad murderer.
I agree.
I would be a bad murderer too. I feel
No, you wouldn't.
He means because you listen to so much true crime.
I think logistics.
That's what I meant. Exactly.
Yes.
I
Good
would
save.
be a good get away with murder, but I wouldn't be able to do the murder. I'm like the opposite of the plastic surgeon.
Right.
I
But
could,
you'd be able to manipulate somebody to do the murder and get
I
away
could
with
think
it.
logistically.
Right. 2 steps ahead. Also. Not like this guy.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like the biggest thing with murder is like you don't need no one to know that you did it or no one to think that you did it.
What
Like,
do you mean?
Look at OJ.
Yeah.
It's more like technicality. Like you need to make sure that there's nothing that could concretely
Tie you to it.
in a court of law
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
beyond a reasonable doubt.
So it doesn't seem very hard when you put it like that.
There
Yeah.
are just more like some things that matter more than others.
Like
Ex-
using your brother's gun.
I think if he hadn't testified, he probably would have gone off.
Really?
Like the juror interviews after,
Yeah.
that was what sealed it for
That
them.
was
His
sealed it,
testimony.
That he was so unlikable.
Yeah. Reasonable doubt is a very high bar.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to have, I mean, not no doubt, but if there's some way that you think he couldn't have done it, you're not supposed to.
Right. Convict him.
And
Yeah.
it is a hard responsibility to convict somebody.
Yeah.
So thank you for that crime minute, crime and plastic.
Yeah,
minute.
that was fantastic.
We talk
Okay.
about that all the time.
Yeah, I'm excited to
See how it develops.
how it develops and to do a full episode on that.
Mm.
Now we are going back in time to the 80s, like Back to the Future time, 1985. Actually, we'll go back a little bit further. This is the story of Gail Katz and her husband, Robert Birnbaum, who is a plastic surgeon.
The Birnbaum Bears.
Birnbaum. So,
Wasn't there Birnbaum Bears?
Berenstain Bears.
Berenstein Bears. Sorry. My bad.
Gail was born in 1956 in Long Island. She was one of 3. She was the oldest. She was very boy crazy, like dated musicians, all of that. And then she broke up with one of them and she decided to drop out of college.
Mm.
And her parents, all they wanted for Gail was to marry
A nice Jewish doctor?
a nice Jewish doctor, I was thinking about that. Doctor stock has gone down. That's not a thing anymore.
No.
It's not a thing, right? Santina?
No.
Do you want to marry a nice Jewish doctor? I mean,
in that era, that
No.
was the thing.
No, I know.
It was like a cliche.
So what happened?
Like every Jewish girl from Long Island and Manhattan wanted to marry a nice Jewish
Well,
doctor.
Now they want to marry like a nice Jewish tech guy.
Yeah, because,
because
that's
tech-
where the status and money went.
Well, not even that.
There was no tech. It wasn't even an option.
But I feel like back then, like no matter who you married, they were gonna be outside of the home for the majority of the day. And now there are so many jobs where like you can spend more time together.
Is that good or bad?
some women want to like their husbands. Like,
But all day
No,
together in the same house?
no, not all day.
Didn't we
but
learn that lesson in Corona? That's not a good
So
idea.
you're saying who's a doctor isn't one of those things.
It's
that-
like, okay, so alternatively back then, what could you be? You could be a lawyer. Who's out
Doctor,
of the
lawyer, accountant, engineer, policeman, fireman.
could have been an investment banker
It wasn't really a thing. I didn't even know what that
or
was.
stock person, Wall Street.
That became a thing in
In
the
the
80s.
80s.
It became a thing, but you have to start earlier if you wanted to do that.
So yeah, I was just thinking about that when I was reading the story because that was such a thing. Like
Such a
everyone
thing.
wanted to. Are you upset that it's not a thing anymore?
I mean, no, because my kids are they're not doctors. I'd be upset for anybody who goes into medicine thinking that today. Yes, I would.
Is that one of the reasons you went into medicine?
It's a good question. I mean, I always wanted to be a doctor since I was a little kid.
But
It was basically like, what kind of doctor do you want to be? That was kind of how it was in my family.
right.
It was like implanted from a very young age. My father bought me a little like plastic stethoscope. I would listen to his heart at night when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I still have that stethoscope.
Do you think less people want to be doctors today because it's not like a status symbol like
Yes,
it was?
I'm sure, 100%.
That it was
Yes.
they're not getting all the ladies or the men by becoming doctors.
It's definitely decreased in status, not just in America, but all over the world.
It's
Yeah.
also like
It's still a great job, though.
There
I'm
was
not gonna lie, it's still a great job.
There was less doctors back then. Now it's just like I feel like it's just saturated.
Saturates more people. It's like there's like 4 billion more people than there were in 1980.
Really?
Yeah,
Population has gone up doubled since 1980?
doubled.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and we haven't doubled the number of doctors.
I'm
Even-
just like, why do I want to marry a guy who's gonna be like gone for so long when I can marry a guy who's like in tech and like stays home, maybe has to.
I feel like tech guys have to work a lot.
Yeah, but they're at home
I know,
and
but
they work at night
Yeah, true.
and they leave and like fine. But like doctors are like so demanding. Like at any given moment, you're like, I gotta run to the hospital.
Thanks. Is that how I sound?
Motherfucker, we're at our child's graduation.
Yes,
Fair.
you're right. It's a demanding job, okay? But it's
Fair.
important, and you feel like you're making a contribution to the world.
Okay, but we're back in the 80s. We're being a doctor. I
I'm
digress.
like,
I was
you
just
want to marry like a Fortnite programmer? Great.
I'm okay with that.
I know you are.
So, and she had therapists, and her mom and her therapist all told her she needed to marry a doctor so she could become stable.
Stable, not a
Yes.
musician, not a flighty.
Right. Like that she would marry a nice Jewish doctor, and all her problems would be solved. And a few years later, she does attempt suicide.
Oh,
Like a real attempt. Like
was she into drugs and things?
recreationally, yes, she
Okay.
was. She takes a bunch of pills. That's
Mhm.
her first attempt, and then she drinks like cleaning fluid.
Mm.
That doesn't work, and then she slits her wrist.
Mm.
But before she tried to commit suicide, she had made plans with her friend to come over. So
It's weird.
yeah, it's a little. She
But
didn't-
maybe she wanted her friend to know.
maybe. I don't know. She didn't give any hints that she was committing suicide. Like she called her mom. She made plans. She did all that stuff.
You think it could have been an impulse?
No, I think she was planning it. She
Oh.
just didn't want anyone to know.
Mm.
And she thought she would have been successful, but she wasn't. So she ran out of time. Her friend came, found her, and she went into like a rehab place.
Mm-hmm.
She comes out and she meets Dr. Robert Birnbaum, who
Ah.
is he's a surgical resident in plastic surgery.
Nice.
And he went to medical school.
Jackpot.
He also went to medical school in Albany, I believe, and he did his residency in Mount Sinai. Yeah, Mount Sinai.
Mount Sinai, Manhattan.
Yeah.
Good program.
So they meet through a friend. Like a friend of hers is married to a plastic surgeon, and they kind of hit it off. Even though her friend didn't see them as a good match, she just thought that they were both like good looking, but they didn't really have anything else in common.
Hey, it's kind of like that other murder case we did a few
Yeah.
episodes back.
Joan and
Yeah.
Joan and John.
John
Yeah.
and John. Also, the friends set them up
Cusacks.
because they were good looking, but
Yeah.
they didn't really think they had anything in common.
So Robert Birnbaum he grew up in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to become a doctor, but he also his other love was flying. He wanted to be a pilot. He loved to fly, and that was actually one of his shticks. His pickup lines when he met Gail was, "Do you want to get high tonight?" And he took her on a flight around Manhattan, and
It's a good line.
No, he literally thought
That
he
is a
ate.
good.
Yeah.
He did eat in 1980. That line eats.
I think he did.
I mean,
It
yeah.
worked anyway. So she was like, wow, he's a pilot, da da da.
And a surgeon
and
and in 1980, whatever, that is gold.
Yeah, so she also thought that was the solution to all her problems. She's gonna marry a doctor.
He could have any woman in Manhattan in that era.
They get married, but Gail doesn't realize about the part before you get the money, the whole residency part.
By the way, I know butt ugly plastic surgeons from Manhattan that married supermodels in that era.
You do?
Yeah.
Who?
The guy did my nose.
Okay, good.
I think
for him.
he's dead now. But rest in peace.
Good
What
for
do you mean
him.
you think?
I think he would be very old now.
Yeah, you.
Very old.
When you did your nose in the 90s, early
Yeah,
90s?
yeah. But and he'd already been practicing for like 30 years.
Right.
But he married like a supermodel.
Yeah.
And he was nothing to look at. I'm just saying.
That sounds familiar.
I'm just the point is that
That was a thing.
it was a thing. They were held in
Well,
very high esteem
well,
back in the day.
Well, yes, that we'll see that. So they get married, but she doesn't. She forgets. She thinks she's marrying a doctor. She's gonna be rich. Da da da. And then there's the whole residency.
Yes,
Where-
residency. You are not rich. You're poor.
Yes, so you don't make money. You don't see each other.
You work like an animal. Easily 100 hours a week.
Right.
Easily.
So Gail is unhappy about that. So it comes to light that they really aren't such a great match. They don't really get along. They fight a lot. She's upset about not having money, about all his hours, and he seems to have quite the temper. So there's like strange stories of like the one time that he strangled her cat, and her sister's
He
like,
strangles Gail Katz's cats.
yes. He strangles Gail Katz's cat, and she stays with him because she says, I'm gonna love him enough, and he's gonna be fine.
He won't strangle cats anymore.
Right?
With my love.
He has to know that I love him more than the cat. Like she kind of told herself that like story. And then also another time she was studying for her GREs. That's the graduate school exam.
Mhm.
And she went out on the balcony for a smoke, and he smells it on her when he comes home, and he strangles her till she passes out. And then he had to revive her.
He didn't know that she was a smoker?
I don't think she was a smoker, but she smoked sometimes. She was a recreational smoker, and he was very
Against smoking.
against smoking.
Because that's what doctors are supposed to be,
Yeah,
against
but
smoking.
I think he should be against strangulation too.
100%. At the same time.
I would say also
a
against
doctor should not date a smoker, especially if it bothers him that much.
a doctor shouldn't strangle a cat.
No, that's bad.
Or his wife.
Or his wife.
Or-
Of
Yeah.
course not.
Yeah.
But he strangled the cat to death, did he not?
Yeah. He strangled, allegedly, yeah. He strangled,
He strangled the cat to death?
He No,
To death?
he didn't. He didn't kill the cat. He strangled the cat, but then she gave away the cat.
Oh.
He didn't strangle this cat, but there was also a story that he told Gail that he had been engaged previously to some other woman, and somehow when he was driving, her cat was in the car, and he was driving. I think he was driving the cat to her or something, and the cat got out of its bed or whatever, the car out of its carrier, and he caught the cat while he was driving and strangled that cat to death. I mean, isn't animal cruelty?
Yeah,
a
it's a
sign
telltale
of-
It's a
sign.
sign of like sociopathy. It's something bad.
It's not great.
It's part of the dark triad of bad psychology traits.
Yeah, it's not great.
Animal cruelty.
So they have this, not great marriage.
Strangle the cat.
Strangle the cat, strangle her.
Strangled her.
They fight all the time.
Her name happens to be Cats, but that's separate.
Yeah, separate. They fight all the time. Their neighbors said that they knew it was Sunday because of the fighting that they would hear, because that's the day he was home from work and they were both home together. It was like the neighbors knew that it was Sunday
Right.
because they were fighting. And they had moved to a nice apartment in Manhattan because Dr. Berenbaum's father was also a doctor, a cardiologist. So they bought them this apartment to live in Manhattan, or they rented it for them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, her life was a little bit better, but she still didn't have the riches.
Yeah, she thought it would be like instant money.
And then she does start stepping out on him. She has
With a musician?
No, she has an affair with.
I just feel like once you've strangled me and my cat, I can go fuck whoever I want.
No, you
That's
leave.
fair.
You leave right away.
Oh, with an investment banker. See,
Oh,
more.
you see? She leveled up.
Yeah. So she had like a summer fling with him, and I think there was like a doctor, because she worked in like hospital doing research and
Right.
stuff as part of her schooling.
She also hooked up with someone
I think she
there.
hooked up with somebody there. I remember reading it was like a Muslim doctor because she said that she knew. I think he was like an anti-Semitic Muslim doctor, and she thought that that was like a way to get back at her husband too by being with someone who didn't like Jewish people. And then she meets this Ken Filer, who's a psychologist,
Yeah.
and they have a friendship. They claim it wasn't sexual, but it was becoming that. She was falling in love with him. She met him on the subway. They became friends, and da da da. And she fell in love with him. And then she finally said that she was ready to leave her husband.
Right.
Like, she'd always been afraid to leave him. I think it was a financial thing. She didn't want to, like, she had her school bills to pay.
Did they at least try to go to counseling or anything?
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay.
So when she's saying she's finally ready to leave him, she says, I had this leverage against him to get a favorable divorce settlement from him. So,
Besides strangling the cat?
yeah, well, when he strangles her, he goes to a therapist because she makes a complaint, and
Right.
he goes to a therapist, and the therapist writes her a letter stating that she needs to leave her husband because she's like in danger of imminent harm or death.
Really?
Yeah. So his therapist sends her a warning letter to tell her to leave.
I feel like it's hard to imagine that the person you're like, people say, I'm going to kill her, I'm going to kill him. But you don't like really think someone's going to kill you. Even if you get like a note from, like, you think in your mind, like, I know this person better than
If
this
he's
therapist.
already strangled you once and strangled your cat?
So she has this paper to use as leverage, and she said she also has she's gonna take down her dad's practice, like accuse him of like Medicare fraud
Oh.
and like all this stuff.
Oh.
And she's been telling all her friends about how he strangled her, how she's afraid of him. Like she's
Right.
been spreading this around to her coworkers.
So
to her
everybody
friends.
knows
So
if anything happens to her,
yeah,
look at him.
yeah, it's something that
Fair.
It was out there. So then July 7th, 1985,
Mm-hmm. How long have they been married at this point, approximately?
3 years.
Okay.
They got married in 82.
And they're like in their late 20s?
Yeah, they got married. She was like 20. Yeah, he was about to turn 30.
Okay.
So on July 7th, 1985, Gail apparently, according to Robert, walks out of the house and doesn't come back. And he says that they had an argument, assuming she probably confronted him that she wanted a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
She walked out. They don't know where she is. He goes to his nephew's birthday party in New Jersey, where
Mhm.
Gail was supposed to come with him.
Mhm.
He goes alone, and they're like, "Where's Gail?" She said, "I don't know. We got into a fight. She went out to cool off. I think she went to Central Park, but she hasn't come home." Then he starts calling all of Gail's friends, saying, "Is Gail with you? We had a fight. I don't know where she is. She didn't come home." He calls her coworkers. They're like, "No, but dude."
And he has no idea where she is.
Yeah, but they're
Hmm.
like, they're like, you should call the police. Like, take this seriously. Where's Gail? He's like, oh, I don't know. Like, she said she just needed to cool off. But this is already like the next day, and like, it's weird.
Should call the police.
You should call the police. He finally calls the police. He does this like perfunctory interview for like 20 minutes with them, and saying like, oh, I don't know. We got into a fight. I don't know where she went. And the police like try to call him to get more information. He totally kind of blows this off, and her friends are calling him every day, like, dude, like, where's Gail? Like, you have to like call the hospitals, call the morgue, call like,
right,
he's not like really taking her disappearance so seriously. He's kind of just saying like, we got into a fight, and and basically saying she threatened to divorce me. So like, he didn't seem that upset. Gail's sister is convinced that he did something to her. He's convinced that there was some
all
foul
her
play.
friends should be
Yeah.
convinced if she's been spreading it around that
Yeah.
she's been strangled.
So
by
they
him.
think that he did something to her, but they have no way to prove it. Like there's nothing.
There's no body.
There's no body. There's
no Gale.
There's no Gale.
There's no cat.
There's nothing. The police investigate all of that. They do search parties around Central Park, and they don't know. Like they don't know.
Is the husband on TV weeping like they usually do?
No, I don't think he was. He
Okay.
actually, decided to enjoy his summer
What?
before Gail disappeared. They did like one of those house shares in the Hamptons. Like,
He goes to the Hamptons.
yeah, he goes to the Hamptons. He parties. He dates. He goes out with starts.
What a nice Jewish doctor.
Ugh.
starts.
Listen, it's
You know,
it's not the Jewish and it's not the doctor.
It's
It's a plastic surgeon. Gotta watch out for them.
yeah. So yeah, he goes to the Hamptons. He like sleeps with a couple of girls. Like he starts dating. Like all
Not while his wife is
like
MIA.
like you said, it was
Yeah.
the 80s. He was a doctor in the 80s in New York City.
King of the Hill.
and he was definitely enjoying himself.
Yeah.
And then he was dating this woman for a few weeks. I think her name was Rochelle.
Oh,
Rochelle.
another Rochelle.
I don't know. I think it was Rochelle.
Okay. We'll
And
call
they
her
said they
Rochelle.
say like she said that he got a call while she was there at night saying that they think they spotted Gail, and he's like, it wasn't Gail. And,
He's a
he-
little too sure.
It was a little too short. He didn't go look at the picture, like the person to like the next. Like he wasn't
It's
like,
I know it's not her. You know
Yeah.
why? Because I know it's not her.
yeah. So he wasn't like anything about it. He just kind of blew it off, which she thought was weird. And then
I would think that was weird too.
You would think it's weird, right?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. Again, plastic surgeons are terrible murderers. Go ahead.
she looks at his. She starts like she thought that was suspicious, and she looks around his apartment and stuff, and she finds his pilot logbook. You know, pilots have to log all their flights and all their hours and everything. And she sees one entry that said that July 7th was changed to July 8th. And July 7th was the day that Gail disappeared. And he didn't tell anybody that he went on a flight.
Right.
So they find out at an airport in New Jersey, like near where his family lived, there's a Caldwell Airport, that he took out a plane at 4:30 for 2.5 hours. He didn't tell anybody, and he changed the logbook. But all this is still like
Circumstantial. There's no body.
There's no body, there's no
witnesses.
nothing, yeah.
Nothing.
And then Elaine is Gail's sister, is just like she is convinced that he killed her sister,
Right.
and she calls the people in the building, and she leaves messages like on his phone, like you're a murderer, like
Yeah.
really like harassing him, till he finally leaves New York, and she was happy. She took credit for driving him out of town.
Right.
And he goes to Las Vegas, where that's apparently the next booming place for plastic surgery.
Yes. Could
So,
be.
So he moves to Vegas. He gets a job at a hospital there.
This is like 86, 87.
No, it's like 90.
90. Okay.
Yeah, like late.
So he practices in New York City for a couple of years after his wife disappears.
Yeah.
And he's partying and having a good time.
Yeah.
But eventually the harassment from the sister drives him out.
Right.
Got
And there's like
And the police don't harass him? They're not like looking into it?
they're looking into it, but they don't have any,
leads.
They have no leads, and it's all circumstantial evidence.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, for all they know, Gail's around.
Yeah.
Right.
She could have left. She did have
Mental
like,
issues. She could have thrown
in her-
herself off a bridge.
Yeah.
She had attempted suicide
that was one of
before.
his theories, like that she did drugs, she committed suicide. You know, that was
Right.
kind of the story.
Right.
he was
I
kinda
it's
telling.
possible.
It's possible. Then around sometime they find the police find a torso, and from the, I think it was from the ocean, like it washed up on shore,
Right.
and they
Where? In New York?
I think it was
Jersey?
Staten Island.
Staten Island? Okay.
Staten Island, and there was no DNA evidence
Back then. Yeah.
right? There wasn't.
No.
So they couldn't match it to Gail, but based on the like chest X-ray, like they had a chest X-ray of Gail that they compared, and like they're like, this is Gail. They just and they gave the
Case closed.
Well, it's not case closed, but the family at least thought they had some closure because they had
A body to bury.
bury. So they bury this torso. Birnbaum is in Las Vegas, and he starts dating this a chiropractor, Dr. Stephanie Youngblood, and they were dating for a while. And then she also has an incident where he's violent and angry. And
Does she have a cat?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
And so
You and the cats.
so she tells him to also go see a therapist if they're going to continue their relationship. And that therapist also sends a warning to her, telling her, dangerous, basically, and she should get out of the relationship. But she listens, and she gets out of the relationship. She doesn't fuck around.
So this guy has gone to 2 therapists
Yeah.
in his life, and both therapists have written letters to his
Yeah.
spouse or romantic partner
I just
saying,
don't
"Get
think-
out! This guy will kill you."
Red flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you were smart at all, I wouldn't have gone to the second therapist. I would have learned my lesson with the first.
Yeah.
I'd be like, they don't like me.
Or maybe I won't say exactly what I said to the last one. I'll change up my answers.
Yeah,
a
like
little
what
bit.
the fuck was he saying that both of these therapists are like, you should leave. You're like, he's gonna kill you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Like, what was he saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Has that happened to anybody? Has anybody ever gone to a therapist and had that kind of thing happen to them? Drop a note in the comments if that's happened to you.
yeah, oh my god, we're about to launch. Quick
Yeah.
tidbit: we're gonna launch a website, and like we want to hear from you guys. Like, if you have any crime and plastic
Yes,
related cases in your own personal life.
I do.
Yes.
Once we launch a website, you can send your submissions there. Until then, you could email us
At
sanrizzle@gmail.com.
all right.
We love the Gmail.
We
So
do.
he is in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas, and then
He's blown up another relationship with his temper.
he meets somebody else in Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
Janet Chalet. They hit it off, and they get married.
So,
So
he
he
breaks.
mar-
So she leaves him.
Yeah, and then he meets somebody else, Janet,
Janet.
another doctor in the hospital,
Okay.
and they hit it off. They get married.
Get married.
Yeah, and anyone who like nobody really knows anything about his ex-wife, like
He didn't
his first
mention
wife.
to her that
No, he
he
just
had
says
been married before and she disappeared.
he does. He says that his wife basically left him, but he doesn't really like give up the information that he was suspected of.
Right.
That he was like a person of interest in her disappearance.
Right.
This is why you have to Google who you date.
Yeah.
100%.
Well,
yes.
Google wasn't even around then.
No, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Imagine what people did before Google.
Private detectives.
Yeah.
I'd
Crazy.
be in the library. I'd be in there.
In the microfilm.
That was also a sexy job in the 80s.
Private-
PI.
PI.
Magnum PI.
You're just like talking all the 80s TV shows. It's a separate podcast.
That's Love and Plastic. Go listen to that.
They get offered this like hospital, this like big hospital company is like recruiting doctors to the small town in North Dakota called Minot. So they recruit both of them to this hospital. He moves to the small town, and he's very well liked in this town. There was this boy who got attacked by a tiger at a carnival there, and he basically was the plastic surgeon on call. So he like fixed his face. So they did like a whole article about him, how he's just, he was just like it's like one of those small towns where nobody really knows your past. But they, they're all friendly. They thought he was a little bit intense because, he's a New Yorker going to a small town, but they got used to it. They thought he was like a local hero.
Right.
He wrote this like, he wrote an article, I think it was like a cooking article, like every week in the local paper.
Really?
And he became friends. There was one other like Jewish person who lived there, like had a bagel store, and like they, she had him over for her Passover Seder, like
Right.
So
He's just fit
yeah,
right in.
he fit right in.
Into
And just
Minot,
And-
North Dakota.
Yeah, and not
Not a lot of plastic surgeons
No.
in North Dakota.
Yeah, and his wife, she's a go-getter. She decided also to become a lawyer.
Oh.
And she went to law school while she went to law school in the other big town in North Dakota. So,
Riley?
no, I think it was
Fargo?
no, like Great Forks or something.
Grand Forks.
Grand Forks, yeah, there.
Grand Forks.
Great Forks.
Great Forks.
Great Forks. He wrote-
Great Value
that was the
Forks.
name of his cooking column
and
on
then
the
he
local
used-
newspaper.
so
Great
she-
Forks.
She had a place there, and he used to fly on the weekends, because he's a pilot, to see her.
Oh,
I hate him.
And they have a baby daughter, and he's like a very like
doting dad.
doting dad. The babysitter, she says he was so great with her. He was a really good dad. Fun fact: Minot is actually a town where they used to relocate like witnesses and witness protection.
How
It's like,
perfect for him.
because it's like one of those towns that people don't ask questions about your past.
Right.
They're just like,
Right.
so that nobody even is suspected.
Oh.
Then there's some scientific advancements in DNA testing around.
Never good
Right.
for murderers.
The cop who was investigating the case, he's about to retire.
What year are we in now?
We're 99.
Okay, so this is many years later.
Yeah. So the cop who was investigating it was about
Back
to
in New York.
back in New York. He's about to retire, and he's thinking about all the cold cases that he's had. And
The ones that got away.
yeah, and Gail Katz, is one of them. So he talks to the like prosecutors, the DAs, and he's like, let's like reopen this case, let's figure it out. And now we have DNA evidence, and they convince Elaine to exhume the torso so they could do DNA testing, and because they're hoping that they'll have a body, and then they can, like
Convict.
They can
convict him.
prove that she was killed or maybe murdered.
Yeah,
or
they could prove an actual murder.
Maybe they'll find his DNA there.
Right. So they exhume the body, and it's not Gail.
Ooh.
Yo.
So Elaine is, furious because a little bit of closure that they had, they don't have anymore.
Right.
And
Should have stayed retired.
yeah. So she tells them, like, you did this, you better figure out how to convict him. Like, you need to make this right. So they start reinvestigating. They interview his girlfriends and, all these, like, stories about him. And,
Partying in the
fr-
Hamptons with his wife disappears.
And all these, like, Stephanie Youngblood with
Right.
with her. And then they re-interview that Rochelle person who, like,
Found the
about the
book.
logbooks, and they go to the airport, and they just do everything again, and they don't really come up with anything concrete. It's still all circumstantial, but they decide to go for it, and I guess because they fucked up with the torso, they felt they had to. So they go to Minot, and they extradite him to New York to arrest him and put him on trial for Gail's murder.
Wow. So what year is this that they extradited?
So it's still 99.
Okay.
And then they put him on trial, and then they do have the theory of the case is that he took Gail's body onto this plane.
He strangled her, poisoned her.
Yeah, he killed her somehow.
Somehow.
They don't know how. But he took her on a plane and threw her out into the ocean. That was their theory. So the defense's big argument against that is that it's impossible. How could you fly a plane and also throw a body out at the same
If
time?
it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Right. So that was their theory that this couldn't be.
They
They thought. So the prosecution is like, well, let's test it. They brought
Whatever.
about like Gail's weight in a body bag or luggage that they could hide, not hide, that someone would be able to put a body in. And they show like an experienced pilot can just while flying throw it out the door and fly back home. Even though this was all circumstantial, they convicted him. Yeah, and the biggest thing was showing the pilot
Could push the body
push
out.
the body out was the
It's very vivid. They did
Yeah.
like a videotape of it?
Yeah, they did a
That's
videotape
very-
of it.
That definitely got to impact
And
Yeah.
the
jury.
prosecution had no case. Like, what were his lawyers doing? Because this is like,
You mean,
Yeah.
you mean
They should've-
the defense?
sorry, the defense.
yeah.
They
I
had
don't
no
know.
case.
I get.
It's
I
all
don't know.
circumstantial.
It was he must have had.
What
really,
about an appeal?
So
No, but wait, fuck the appeal. That should
I
have
don't
been
know, he had
a
really-
home run
Yeah.
for his attorneys.
For his
I-
defense, you're saying.
I
For the
think-
defense. They should have been able to put plenty of reasonable doubt.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
You're
I,
making up a fantasy. You're like creating a video of something that never happened.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what you would say.
I think his lawyers really sucked because there was a lot of reasonable doubt. It was all circumstantial
No,
evidence.
yeah, what the fuck? And me, I would get into that courtroom, play nobody,
Yeah,
no
but why
crime
would he
by
change
Taylor
the
Swift.
log?
That's circumstantial. You could
It's
say he
circumstantial.
wanted to go flying, but he knew it would look suspicious the day that his wife went missing, so he changed the date because he didn't want to seem
Yeah.
guilty.
They had no body. They had no DNA evidence. They had nothing.
This is me.
Just-
I,
Just
Well,
that
I'm
they were
glad they
fighting.
convicted him
So they convicted him.
I would be like,
for
Alexa,
strangling the cat, just for that alone.
Alexa, play nobody, no crime. Like, what the fuck? That's my defense.
So he's
And-
convicted in the year 2000, 99 or whatever?
He's convicted on October 24th, 2000. They found him guilty, and he was sentenced to 20 years to life.
Nice.
And then he appealed a bunch of times and all the way to the Supreme Court, and it was denied.
Yo,
Yeah.
he had like shit attorneys from the start to end. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on
His
here?
petition to the Supreme Court was denied in 2003. He tried this other appeal, like to file a writ of habeas corpus. That's like, it means like you have the body. It's like this old Latin term, and
Yeah.
basically it's just it's a procedural mechanism where you like sue the state and say like I was wrong. Like it's just like a catch-all, like I was wrongfully like imprisoned,
Right.
and like grant me relief. And so they do that, but he lost. So
So he's been rotting in prison this whole time?
this whole time, but then there is a twist.
What's the twist?
So
Oh,
he's up for parole,
right.
and he's before the parole board, and Dr. Robert Birnbaum confesses to the murder. After 20 years of denying and denying, he tells the parole board that it's exactly what he did. He took her up in the plane and threw her out over the ocean.
No, this guy's a fucking idiot. Like, What?
Because the parole board was probably like, you show no remorse. Why should we let you out?
And then
But why?
he says, it is even worse, he says that he was very immature and he didn't know how to handle his anger at the time. And he just wanted her to stop yelling. So he strangled her. He just had shitty lawyers. He actually did cover it up well.
But he's stupid too.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
why would that be your strategy?
Well, his parole was denied.
Anyway, it's
I
like,
would try again.
nice try, Junior.
I think he gets to do it every year.
No, but like my parole, finally 20 years, you like get out of parole. This is when you say like, I was wrongly convicted. Like it's not fair.
He's been saying that for 20 years.
But I've done my 20 years. I've been a good prisoner. Let me out.
I agree with Santino. I don't think that was the best.
You fucking double, triple, quadruple down on the fact that you're not guilty and try to get off on parole. Like
maybe somebody gave him the advice and said, the family still feels like you haven't fully admitted your guilt, and if you do that, we'll consider your parole. But until you do that,
but parole is not granted based on whether or not you did something. It's based on if you served your term and you served it well.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
So he served his term.
But maybe he didn't serve it well.
I mean, you are supposed to show remorse, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's up to the.
But
I think the parole board has very much discretion in these matters, and I don't think they would look kindly on him. Yeah, confessing.
Yeah, confessing is like not the way to go. Like, who is
I don't
advising
know.
this guy?
I don't know.
I don't know,
Well,
but
let's talk to him.
So that was the shock that
so
after
he's
20
still,
years,
he's still in prison.
he's still in prison.
But we have closure on the case because we know that he
Yeah.
definitely did it.
We know he definitely
And we know
did it.
how he did it because he told everybody how he did it.
Yeah.
And worst of all, like his reasoning for strangling her was so stupid. Like,
Yeah.
what's to stop him from doing that to someone in a coffee shop who won't shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
I just wanted her to stop yelling. That's a direct quote.
are you dumb? He thought he ate. I'm sorry. That was crazy.
I guess that ego again.
So
strikes
yeah, what have
again.
we learned about plastic surgeons so far in these episodes?
They're not that bright.
They're not as smart as you make them out to be.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
actually think
big
that about a lot of
egos.
people.
big egos.
Big egos.
Not always thinking about the consequences of their actions.
Yeah.
But they do get the job done.
They get the job done, but they
But
still get caught.
They still get caught. Wow, that was a good one, Rosie.
That was good. And really dumb of Bob. I mean, I'm glad he's stupid.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad he's in prison.
Yeah, of course. But
Yeah.
I'm
He was
just-
rightfully convicted, even though I don't think I would have convicted him if I were on that jury. There was
No.
definitely reasonable doubt.
No,
Yeah.
me neither, probably.
You know, it was
Wow.
very circumstantial. All
That's
right.
the law.
Well,
That's wild as hell.
yeah, the confession was a shock after 20 years. That
Did they have it on tape?
there's a transcript of it
Oh.
that I don't have.
Maybe
the
we'll
full,
put that on the website when we get the website up.
Maybe
With all that
I don't
stuff.
have the
I just feel like
full transcript.
his lawyers need to go down in history.
yeah, maybe we could do an episode on the worst lawyers.
worst lawyers
in
Worst
history.
criminal lawyers.
Like worse criminal lawyers, like they need to be studied. Like the same way they study like OJ's lawyer for being like the best. Like
Yeah.
you need to study the worst because this is truly like an art.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Like, what the
I ho-
fuck?
yeah. Well, I hope more murderers have bad lawyers. That's it. That's not a bad thing.
No.
No, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Not. I mean, it's like lucky.
yeah.
It's
Justice was served.
Well, I hope you're all
serendipitous.
paying attention to this episode because we will be giving away surgery
Based
based
on
on,
trivia.
and that will be coming up soon. So tune in next week. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.
Well, thanks for tuning in. And that's a wrap for this week's episode.
And seriously, Crocs marketing people, don't be a stranger.